Hey, somebody's got to put up the advent calendar, the one with the chocolates. You did? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer. Here, you and I will use common sense and all the wisdom we can muster to go beyond what is true and all the way to the truth. With actual listeners in more than 100 countries, I am the Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today, with every show we do, is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to some of the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. Our sponsor this week is Socks for Christmas. This is a little book that I wrote years ago that continues to just blast through the holiday season every year. There are radio stations that play it every year, and it's a discovery, really a child's discovery of the true riches of Christmas, and it's told from the point of view of a child. But I got to tell you this: the book has photographs in it that are just unbelievable. They will bring back so many memories for you of the Rock'em Sock'em robots and the Operation game and Hot Wheels and all this stuff. But again, it has a twist. And if you haven't heard it, this is a child's discovery of what Christmas is really about. Socks for Christmas. Now through December 15th, listeners to the Professional Noticer can use the promo code SOCKS20 to get 20% off this book. That's SOCKS20, one word, to get 20% off this book. This will be a great Christmas tradition for you to start. This year, a lot of people read this to their families every year. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on the Professional Noticer. I'm very excited about this week's show. Not only do I have a great buddy, but it's not often that I have a great buddy, that somebody that I am this close to, that my boys introduced me to. And probably one of the most interesting guests we've ever had, probably one of the most interesting people I know. But several years ago, now you guys all know that the Andrews family, we're hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen. And so the boys, Austin and Adam, they watch all the outdoor shows. They watch all the hunting shows, all the fishing shows. And so this was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, they come to me, maybe 5, 6, somewhere around there, come to me and say, Dad, we found the best show on, it's better than anything on television. And I'm thinking, well, where are you seeing something that's not on television? And they said, it's all online. It's an internet show. And I said, oh, okay. And they said, Dad, it's better than any show on the Sportsman channel, on the Outdoor channel. It's better than any of them. And I said, oh, okay, well, let's watch. And they said, come on. So we watch. And first thing, I'm blown away by the quality. I mean, it's all high definition, and we've thrown it up on the big screen TV. And I got to say now, part of the reason that I love this show so much, and it's called Growing Deer. All right, that's the name of the show. And it's growingdeer.com, growingdeer.tv. But I guess maybe one of the reasons that I love the show so much is, even though I'm a hunter, most hunters will tell you, bagging the game is like, that's not the first thing in everybody's mind. It's being outdoors. It's enjoying creation. And so I, long ago, got kind of tired of the shows where they would go, okay, watch this. Watch me kill this deer. And then they go, all right, watch me kill another deer. And then after the commercial, we'll come back and we're going to get another deer. And then join us next week where we're going to kill some deer. And it's like, golly, how much can you watch of this? I mean, what's the point? And so I watched the show, and this guy is talking about conservation. He's talking about the land. He's talking about the agricultural aspects of it. He's talking about predators, talking about what to do to protect the fawns, talking about all this stuff. And I'm just blown away. And after watching about 5 or 6 of them, I said, I got to meet this guy. I've got to meet this guy. And so I called some friends at Mossy Oak, called Bill Sugg and Toxie Hayes, and I said, do you know a guy named Dr. Grant Woods? And they said, oh yeah, we know who he is. And I said, I really want to just like send him some books. I just love this guy. His shows with his family, and so it's just awesome. So we connected, and you get to meet him today. You know he is sponsored. They've sponsored a bunch of podcasts, but please welcome my buddy, Dr. Grant Woods. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Andy. How are y'all doing?
Man, we are doing good. We're doing good. All kind of recovering from the hurricane here, and you're out in Missouri, probably freezing, aren't you?
A little bit cooler today. A little bit cooler. It's time. You know, it's December. We don't always have a white Christmas, but every now and then we get a little drift of snow, and typical winter we get a few inches here and there. It doesn't stack up 4 feet deep. There's no ski slopes around here, but
right. Our white Christmas here is all sand. You know, that's what we do here. You know, watching growing deer, and I wish I could just like put into people all the stuff that I know about you and your family, and the show. I mean, you guys have really changed how we do things and how we see things. And you are a wildlife biologist. And I know neither one of us really likes Bill Nye the Science Guy, but I think it's a cool quote that Outdoor Life magazine had about you. They said, if you don't know who Dr. Grant Woods is, think Bill Nye the Science Guy in a tree stand. I thought that was great. So you're a wildlife biologist. And what did you start doing right after school, right after getting your degree?
You know, while I was in school, I love being out in the field. And I was that graduate student that, although I worked with deer, man, some of my buddies in grad school working on turkeys or, whatever. If I had a weekend off, hey, can I tag along in your project? And I just loved the field. And I was getting ready to graduate, and University of Northern Arkansas, Flagstaff, what an awesome place to be. And Michigan State sent me letters of interest, whatever, kind of, the little thing happens at that level. And I started thinking about, man, I can't imagine myself sitting in that office all day, and I love students, still have, as you know, have interns, whatnot, but all this time I've been going out either volunteering or started finally charging a little bit for it and consulting, helping landowners improve their habitat and hunting strategies, whatever. And I had a pretty good little list going until I graduated, so I said, I think I'll see if I can make this work. And 30 years ago, I've never looked back. That's what I do. I love, as you know, our company statement is, helping others enjoy creation and knowing the creator. And man, I love teaching people how to, restore native habitat. Maybe they've got a bunch of sweet gums that need to restore, whatever. And I'm still passionate about that.
A couple of things that I always point out to people that I like about you and what you do is I like the entrepreneurial aspect of what you do. And I think, a wildlife biologist coming out of school, they usually get a job, all right? And that job rarely affords them the luxury of buying land, much less 2,200 acres, okay? And so you not only did you do something different coming out of school, but your processes are different. All through your professional life, you have had to kind of prove your it's not a theory anymore, but you had to prove what you do to the landowners. And that's why, you called the place, the 2,200 acres there in Missouri, the proving grounds. But explain how you were able to get that place and what you did with it and how you started. Because I want people to hear, especially about the buffalo system and stuff like that. So we'll just kind of move through it if it's okay.
Yeah, quickly, my wife Tracy and I were living in South Carolina. I finished my degrees at Clemson University. Go Tigers! Those those
roll
Wings guys
tide,
go
roll
there, but
tide. Yeah, roll tide.
And we were living on 13 acres, and I had a food plot or a little ag field to attract deer and turkeys along our driveway, and I'd take 20 yards and plant this and 20 yards and plant that, and we were poor as a church mouse. I borrowed a neighbor's tractor, did a little work, and I just kept. That was in Red Clay, South Carolina, Piedmont area, South Carolina. I kept, man, there's a better way. And Tracy and I wanted more land. We're both farm kids, and I was raised here by Branson, Missouri, in the Ozark Mountains, and we come back to see family, and Tracy and I guess you call it a date day. We'd stop and got some ice cream. If you could see a little lower, you'd see I love ice cream here, but we stopped, got some ice cream on date day, and I just walked out across the little highway to look at all the development that happened since I've been gone in South for a long time. And my wife Tracy picked up a real estate guide, I guess out of habit, and come out, and she's thumbing through and said, well, here, Grant, here's some land for sale. And just selfish as I am, we're supposed to go shopping the next day, and I said, hey, anything's better than shopping, honey. Call a real estate agent. So, short story, we toured. It's really, really a rough place. Andy's been here, and
it had been for sale forever, right?
7 years. A guy had passed and left it to a hospital.
Okay.
And so they'd literally never seen it. They said, we got this land by Branson. They're thinking it's development land. Development land's on down the creek a ways, not here. And so anyway, Trace and I offered, short story, what we thought we could afford, and it was way less than the asking price. And their accountant said there was no hand stuff here. It's all letters back in the day. And the accountant said, no, heck no. And a year later, 9/11 happened. I guess their donations or I don't know, something dried up there. And they wrote us a letter and said, is your offer good enough? That's how God put us here. And it was about 1/10 of what they were asking. And that's how God put us here. And it was just a place to raise kids and maybe experiment with some of my theories, if you will. And boy, it was tough. I mean, it's rocky. There's no dirt here. It's the Ozarks. A lot of people have been to Branson, right? And I started having a little success and getting some green stuff growing and bigger deer than normal for the area. And one of my buddies came here and said, man, I can't believe you're doing this. This is like a test ground. You're proving stuff here. And that's the name of the proving grounds. More and more people started seeing, and people wanted to be involved. So, companies like Bass Pro and Yamaha and some pretty significant companies started saying, hey, man, we like what you're doing. How can we be involved? And
okay, now wait. Now wait. I want to back up just a second because I have been there. I have because you said, okay, we got some stuff growing. That just sounds like, everybody else could go out and go. If you would imagine a gravel driveway,
literally,
this is what this land is like. There is no secret as to why this place did not sell for 7, 8, 9 years, because there were no trees on it. There was just like kind of nothing. In fact, it was the place that they had tested in the Vietnam War. They tested Agent Orange on that place, right?
Way back when. We didn't know that after we bought the property, and it hadn't really impacted me. But anyway, yeah, they did do some testing here and stunted a lot of trees, stuff like that long ago.
But this is like rock. I mean, it's rock.
It's tough. Trees are all bent and craggly and whatnot.
No reason to do a soil sample because there's no soil.
Literally bent my stainless steel. I'm out of college. Still at that time got the college mindset. Still doing stuff by the textbook.
Listen carefully, people.
All this stuff. And I had a stainless steel soil probe, and I'm only 170 pounds, folks, and I would jump on it trying to get in between the rocks enough to get a little dirt for my soil sample, because you got to have a soil sample, right? And I bent my stainless steel probe. And literally, at that time, I'm thinking standard synthetic fertilizer. If you don't know, nitrogen was developed out of a nuclear bomb process.
Okay.
And Germany, of course, was going that way, and nitrogen's real explosive. Gunpowder's a lot of nitrogen. And so the guy that was developing this source of nitrogen actually got out of Germany, come to the States, and after the war, so well, ag needs nitrogen, and that's where we often hear 10, 10, 10. Well, the source of nitrogen is synthetic.
Okay.
And by the way, folks, right here, you should never spend money on nitrogen, like never, because over every acre above the planet here, God gave us about 30 tons of nitrogen in the air. I won't get too technical, but we breathe, nitrogen in and out all the time. We can't break it down to form nitrogen air. We can't break it down. It'd kill us if it just goes in and out. And I'm thinking, well, plants can take nitrogen out of the air and put it in the soil. And again, Trace not having money. I'm like, well, what if I plant legumes that you just start seeing this going? And I can't plow disc. I mean, it's just really rock. No.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot plow this place.
Cannot. Folks, let me explain this. I have, 7 or 8 walleye ponds on the property, and not one of them, not one, holds water unless I put a polypropylene liner or some polymer in there to seal the cracks up. It just, it's rock.
Okay, so now you want to plant something, but you can't plow it.
And I'm old school, out of college, got to till the ground. I was raised on a farm, got to till, boy. It's almost like recreation. What am I going to do this afternoon? I'm going to go till. So I'm going to till the dirt some more, and you watch it blow to your neighbors. You see the erosion. Well, it eroded, made a ditch in my field. I need to go till some more, and that causes it to erode more. I call that recreational tillage. And so no-till drills were kind of coming out in our county. Pretty progressive, had a no-till drill just for pasture. There's no ag here. People would interseed their pastures. And I rented it. You can rent it. Great program. And I rented it, and the guy, I'll never forget this guy came, what you going to do, boy? I'm going to plant some food plots. You're going to spend money on food plots? The deer just eating the woods, boy. Well, I'm
right.
It's okay, So, and literally, I remember this, folks. Literally, as the drill's going over, and I'm pushing because I only get to rent it for 24 hours. It's a critical time of year. Everyone's wanting to plant. And I'm going after dark, and sparks are coming up. Literally. I so wish I had a video of that. Sparks are coming up. But I put seed there, and it rained, and some stuff started growing. And, well, I want to back up. So got the mindset of NP and K. You go to the local farm store, fertilizer truck comes out and spreads. A guy come out here in my driveway, right out this window here, and he looks out there, and he took one loop around the field, and he pulled up with the fertilizer I'd paid for in the truck, and again said, boy, I'm not tearing up my truck for your food plot. I'm going back with the fertilizer in it. And he drives out the driveway with my $442 of fertilizer in the back of his truck.
Oh, my gosh.
It's just getting ready to rain. I need fertilizer. So I tell my wife, Tracy, hey, the closest agricultural tractor stores down in Arkansas where there is some ags, I'm going to drive down there and buy a fertilizer buggy that goes behind a truck so you can spread it.
Right.
When I get down there, we all have God winks or turning points in our life, I believe.
Sure.
And there's a Mennonite salesman, and he can tell I'm kind of wound up when I get inside. I just want the buggy. I don't want to negotiate price. Just, I need the buggy. I need it now. I'm running out of daylight here. Calm down. Just calm down, sir. He's very polite. Still Ted Hosteller, great guy. Still remember him. Ted says, my Uncle Galen up the road here, he composts poultry litter, and he's crazy. He'll drive your heels. I'm sure if you go talk to Galen, he'll spread his composted poultry litter much cheaper than synthetic fertilizer and be better for your land. I don't care. I just need some fertilizer. So I go meet Galen. Galen and I are still buddies today. But Galen's got his thumbs in his overalls. Nicest guy you will ever meet in your life. Said, he's real slow. I believe I can help you. Let's get going, boy. Let's go. So anyway, that was my introduction to compost. And compost, if you don't know, is all about the microbes or bacteria. And I'm growing great crops. The county agent's coming over a year or two later, look at it, and I'm growing stuff that doesn't grow here in the Ozarks. Soybeans, literally chest tall on me. I'm 6 foot tall, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, boy, that poultry litter is real strong, but it's the microbes. And this triggered what I'm going to talk about, the buffalo system. I started thinking, now, how did God grow 60 million 2,000-pound animals on the prairie with no synthetic fertilizer, no herbicide, no pesticide, no fungicide, no insecticide?
Right.
Do we ever really think about this? And so I'm thinking about how that happened, because there was no money spent and 60 million critters bigger than a cattle. We don't run that many cattle in that part of the world anymore. The area was super productive. And hence I come up named Buffalo System. And there's four principles. The land was never tilled, right? The buffalo would go over, maybe churn just a little bit on top, but it was never tilled. It was never exposed, because when you till soil, you allow too much oxygen in there. And we all know what oxygen can be very powerful. And it was killing the beneficial microbes or bacteria. We hear bacteria and we're thinking, oh my gosh, get that off my skin. But most bacteria is very beneficial, few are bad. And then that area had a wide diversity of plants. We primarily plant monocultures or single species. Prairies often have 100 different species per acre or more. Okay, maybe I need to add some more seed in my hopper of different species. And then the ground was always covered. There's always a living root in the ground. Now, it's 20 below in Nebraska and the wind's blowing, nothing may be growing, but there's a living root in the soil. And I don't want to get deep in soil chemistry, but roots, this is so cool. I mean, it's just so
nothing is eroding. Nothing is eroding on prairie. It's just building topsoil.
It's building topsoil, and these microbes that Galen's putting in his compost, I mean, they were originally here, right?
Right.
Roots put out what's called exudates. Roots are actually very leaky. When we pull up, a root out, I'm not talking a big carrot, right? I'm talking the little hair roots that come off there.
Right.
They're leaking. And this is so fascinating. And they leak an exudate, actually a carbonic acid, sequestering carbon, carbonic acid, and they leak different forms of that acid based on what they need, because the microbes get that, and the plant may be saying, I need phosphorus, for example. And so they leak something that draws the microbes, had to been eating the parent rock with phosphorus, the microbes come there and exchange that. It's more complicated than that, but that's what's happening.
Right.
Really recent, like this year recent research. Guys, this applies to your garden, your yard, or whatever. You don't need all those synthetic things. It's better for the planet. And I'm not like a real greenie. Andy knows this, right?
Right.
The microbes actually can go into plant roots, if you will, get what they need out, and go out. There's a symbiotic relationship. Now, for years, we've talked about plants fixing nitrogen and that symbiotic relationship, but it turns out plants can do whatever they need if they're in healthy soil. And healthy soil, when you till it, I mentioned, has too much oxygen in there. Earthworms, God's perfect soil builders, allow the perfect aeration. Water can infiltrate in, just the right amount of air can infiltrate in, and what comes out the back end of an earthworm is the perfect fertilizer ratio. Right. It never gets any better. If you go to Stuff Mart right now and try to buy what's called vermiculture or worm poop for a guy like me, it's real expensive. A little bag, like a big bag for your flower pots, $20, $30. And it's really easy. If you never till the soil, tillage kills earthworms by the billions. And you've always got it covered. Earthworms eat decaying matter. So again, when the buffalo come through the prairie, they're eating a lot. They're defecating a lot, and they're trampling down vegetation. But it's always covered. The soil's never bare. They're just trampling down a mulch. So with all these principles in mind,
they are doing what I hear you on your show talk about, terminating a crop so that you lay in another one. Okay, go ahead.
So, I mean, I'm not the only person in the world thinking this. There's other brilliant people in the ag world. I'm doing it for wildlife or food plots, and some of us have now gotten together. It's just really cool. But the ag people had invented their own mobile buffalo, if you will, that they could control, and they built a crimper, think of a roller or something, but it's got flares on it or metal bars at an angle, so the crimper, as it's rolling, something's always on the ground. Think of like a dihedral shape. If it was just straight on there, when it rolled, it'd start bouncing. Right. And that is built to crimp the stem of the plant about every 8 inches, just like a herd of buffalo walking over. And they may not kill the plant. So if you just rolled it, if you drive in your yard with car tires, you leave tire tracks, your wife goes, I can't believe you put those ugly tracks in the yard. 3 days later, it stands back up. You never knew a car was there.
Right.
But when you crimp it and you break the circulatory system, the plant's terminated. Okay. So we can terminate plants without herbicide. And then I started thinking about this further. Okay, seeds on the prairie, plants on the prairie, they mature at different rates, a lot of different species, but some of them matured, made seeds, or they made seed last year. The buffalo come over, trample everything down. The seeds grow right through it, but there's not many weeds because you got this mulch. And pardon me,
and the sun can't get to it.
Sun can't get to it. Almost all weed seeds, really bad ones right now, pigweed, mare's tail. These are some bad weeds in the ag world, in the food production world, have really small seeds. One plant might produce 500,000 to 1,000,000 seeds, so really small. That little seed laying on top of soil with 3 or 4 inches of vegetation on top, think of mulch in your garden or something. A, it's not getting any sunlight. B, it has no energy on board. I'm talking about in the endosperm. And see, think about corn. And you can clearly see the endosperm, right? That different color. That's it's big. You can see it. You cannot even see a pigweed seed with your naked eye. So it may germinate, but it doesn't have enough energy on board to get through that mulch to then make leaves and photosynthesize. So farmers are finding 90+% control of weeds by using a system. So now we're not putting herbicide down in a lot of cases, not all, but in a lot. That's good. It saves the farmers money, right? There's less compaction on soil. Every time you drive across the soil with this big equipment, you're squishing in those earthworm tunnels, so there's less soil compaction. If the earthworm tunnels are there, when it rains, water infiltrates in. If we're doing it right, we never have to irrigate. There's guys in North Dakota, live in areas that get about 12 to 16 inches of precipitation a year, including snow, growing 200 bushel corn with no irrigation. Think of the profit they're making, right? Because they're not paying that big pivot to go woo, woo, and pumping water from real deep, and the water staying in the ground. And there's no herbicide going through the ground and going in the little creek and the big creek and then where the city gets its water. So I'll stop there, but I could go on and on. So we call this the buffalo system, and it's just simply replicating nature.
And if we're gonna lay some video over this for the people who watch this podcast. Most listen to it, but for the people who watch, we're gonna lay some video over this. But if you're listening, make sure you go to growingdeer.com and watch a couple of these videos and look at the soybeans, look at the clover, look at the stuff in these fields. And I want you to understand very clearly, Grant, you don't even have a plow on your property, do you?
Have not owned one or used one in 20 years now. They're absolutely not necessary. Everyone says, well, I need to plow every now and then, don't I? No. For eons, there was no plowing on the prairie, most fertile place on the planet.
Right.
Growing all kinds of critters and humans.
It's astonishing to me. And hunters are obviously very, they're very concerned about the animals. They're the number one source of money for the conservation. And, if you find anybody who cares.
Just a second, Andy.
Sure.
Andy said that I want to pat hunters on the back if I can, and fishermen. Years ago, Pittman and Robinson were a couple of senators, and they come up with we needed conservation really bad. Things were going downhill for natural resources in America, and they come up with an excise tax. So firearms, ammunition, chemical, a lot of things to do with hunting, the manufacturer pays before it's ever sold, 11% excise tax, and it goes to the federal government, and then they divvy that back out specifically for conservation to the states based on the amount of hunting licenses they sell. We're the hunter and fishermen are the only groups that have voted this on ourselves. Bird watchers, trail hikers, I'm not mad at these groups, but they've tried to get an excise tax in to fix trails, make more bird sanctuaries, whatever, and it never passes. Hunter and fishermen were willing to fund better conservation. So, you go to a national park, you go whatever, maybe wildlife management areas in your state, Pittman and Robinson dollars help do that for everyone to enjoy. And to make cleaner water, cleaner air for everyone.
Obviously I'm interested in this, but I'm sitting here thinking, I glanced at the clock and I'm sitting here thinking, there's like 4 shows here because I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you more specifically about the locavores. I want to talk to you about the business aspects of what you do. Tilt your head down. What hat are you wearing right now? I can't tell.
Bass Pro hat.
Okay. Now, I want to make a point here for the business people who listen to this podcast. Grant has There's plenty of growing deer stuff. You know, my boys wear growing deer hats. We've got growing deer shirts. But I don't see Grant wearing his stuff. Now, you see a lot of people, they wear their own stuff all the time because they think, I got to build my brand. But Grant, you always wear your sponsors' stuff. Why is that?
I want them to be successful. I want other people to be successful. And as you know, by helping other people, good things will happen to you. I'm not just talking some karma. I mean, when Bass Pro sees this podcast, they're going to go, man, Grant, he had our logo on. I think about how many people just saw that. So we make a point to always wear multiple partner gear, our shirt, our hat, whatever. And we don't, I'm not saying, hey, brought to you by Growing Deer or brought to you by Bass Pro, but just if you go out of your way to make your partners, if you will, successful, it's amazing what happens. Now, I'm a wildlife biologist, and I've been very blessed. And I want to say one thing while we're talking about that. I'm sorry about time, but, I've never had a business or a management class. My dad was a self-employed home builder. So I learned these lessons by a guy who had to feed the family. And, we're always early. On time meant we were at the job and the tools were out and the extension cords were plugged in and we were cutting 2x4s before 8 o'clock. So we're ready to go. Right. And really simple, I don't know any fancy business stuff, but really simple principles have helped us grow our little business.
Well, you guys watch his show sometime and you'll see the sponsors. I mean, these are sponsors like Bass Pro and Winchester and Yamaha. And I mean, just unbelievable. And there's a lot of sponsors. And the reason is because Grant draws people to the show. And the reason Grant draws people to the show is because the show is valuable to landowners. It's valuable to kids. I love our boys watching the show. Polly watches the show. And you have Raleigh and Ray, your daughter's on sometimes. And it's just, there's so much value in so many different ways. I love the way you end the show. Enjoy, creation and be quiet sometimes while you're out there and listen to what the creator is saying to you. I'm a huge fan. And, in these times, I'm going to shift gears here as we kind of close up, Grant, but in the times that we're in, I'm going this afternoon to teach a friend about just gun safety. He's as old as I am, but he's got his first shotgun. And I'm going to go out there. We're going to go through. I'm going to do everything I did with my boys, everything my daddy did with me. And he said, I need to learn how to hunt because I'm just concerned about our food sources, our family, and so tell me briefly. Maybe we ought to do a whole show about this. But you told me one time. You said, you went to this archery convention and thought it was, you guys had a lot of people, and then you asked who was coming next. Tell about that. And who these people.
Briefly, I went to the Archery Trade Association show in Nashville, the new convention at the time, new convention center. And I don't know, I'm just something I learned along the way. I come out of the restroom and there's a custodian there, and hey, how you doing? What's your name? And, just make conversation. Hey, what's the next group coming in here? He said, locavores. Man, what the heck's a locavore, He said, them people that want to get their own food to save the planet. All right, I appreciate it. And by the way, there was about 6,000 of us, which I thought was big, and there were 40,000 locavores coming in.
40,000.
I'm at the wrong show, A locavore is someone who wants to secure their meat, vegetable, and meat, their food, within 50 miles of their house. They want to use minimal, petroleum, fossil fuels. They want to know what's organic. They don't want to see that picture of 100,000 cows in a lot walking in each other's excrement and stuff like that. Right. So deer are perfect, right? Deer are overpopulated in a lot of areas. They're natural, awesome. I'm a transplant patient, and he didn't mention that. And the Mayo Clinic tells me venison is one of the most healthy sources of protein I can put in my body. That's the Mayo Clinic folks. I see a dietitian every year.
Right. Well, venison is,
are just people that want to acquire their own sources of food.
and so there's tons of people now that are kind of getting on board there. You know, the venison thing, I can't tell you how many people in my life have said, yeah, if we try to, and I'm like, well, you know, I mean, I think one of the things that Grant teaches, and one of the things that I've tried to tell people for years is, you know, you wouldn't like beef if the slaughterhouse slaughtered it and then left it laying there for 6 hours and rode it around in the back of their truck to show their buddies for a day. And then, I mean, you wouldn't like that. And so there is a precise way of taking care of that game that is respectful of that game. And venison has, it has zero fat, because while beef has marbling in it, the fat on a deer is around the muscle. And so, you know, you cut that out. So venison has zero fat and is twice the protein of beef.
And not only that, but real quickly, many, many more minerals. Because if you think about it, a beef cow in a feedlot just eating whatever it gets, or most cows are just in a 80-acre pasture and they've ate everything good, so they're eating whatever. A deer walks around all day taking a bite here and a bite here and a bite here, and they have the ability to sense through smell and the infrared reflection back in their eyes. So if you even watch a deer out in a massive soybean field, they eat one leaf here and one leaf here, they're only eating the best and leaving the rest. They're very selective feeders. So the meat's much higher quality if it's prepared. And our videos on how to prepare venison and how to process the animal are some of the most watched on our whole gig.
Yeah. I mean, I love the one with Tracy teaching now to make jerky, and it's just, it's awesome. Buddy, I appreciate so much you being here, and I'm not kidding. I think you are going to be my first guest to do this twice, because we'll just wait just a short little bit and then have you on again if you don't mind, because there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I'm sure there are questions that we will get. And just from me to you, I appreciate your presence in my life. I have benefited greatly from being your friend and from watching you and Tracy raise your daughters, and to watching how you do business and how you work with these young men who you have as interns, and, you know, Daniel and Clay that work with you. I just really appreciate you. And so I just want to thank you so much for what you do. I think what you do is incredibly important to all of us, but it's especially important to the Andrews family.
And that feeling is likewise. My family adores your family. We literally love y'all and just are blessed. God again, a God wink, if you will, or God blessing was when you and I become friends, because that's expanded to our family. Thank you so much for your teachings to everyone. I mean, I don't know what it is now, X 100 countries or something like that, but whatever it is, you make the world a better place, and I'm honored to know you.
Thank you, buddy. We'll see you very soon. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, smile while you talk. Yes, even behind that mask. Don't breathe anyone else's air. Not time to do that yet, but make sure you have a positive answer to the question, hey, how's it going? And so, until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Sheep-flavored candy canes provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by WhoWasFirst.com. Have you ever wondered who was the first person to do an everyday ordinary thing? WhoWasFirst.com has almost all the answers. Everyone already knows who the first man on the moon was. Even children are familiar with famous names like Henry Ford and the Wright brothers. But WhoWasFirst.com is an easy-to-access web portal that delivers information propelling you to the forefront of any conversation in any group, anywhere. You'll learn the names of the first person to eat an oyster. Can you imagine cracking open a wet rock, finding the slimy goo inside and thinking, I bet this'll taste good? We keep historical records of previously unappreciated firsts. Our files contain the names of the first person to slip on a banana peel, the first person to be afraid of a clown, and the first person to actually drink milk. In fact, we have a documented quote from the first milk drinker who said to his friends, "See that growth hanging under that cow? You squeeze it, I'll drink what comes out." WhoWasFirst.com is an educational resource and a ton of fun for the family. The first cliff diver, the first owner of a lava lamp, even the first kid who ever shot his eye out with a BB gun. We have them all. That's WhoWasFirst.com.